So I've played a lot of Marvel Rivals, over 1,400 hours on Steam alone. Now, whether that's actual in-game play, who knows, because sometimes I click play, leave the launcher on, and accidentally forget about it. But that's besides the point. I've done coaching, I've created contents, I've done tournaments, I've done the whole bang. And I think I give a complete and honest review about this game. Now, this video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. All my opinions, everything that I have to say about the game is all in my own opinion and my own interests. And well, because this video isn't sponsored, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to see more content. And YouTube added a new feature where you can hype videos for smaller creators, so I definitely recommend hitting that hype button. It really does make a big difference. It's at the comment section. But anyways, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, again, this is a review video, but I'm also leaving it kind of as a open discussion video, so if you have topics that you want to talk about, maybe something I said you didn't like or maybe you agree with, definitely comment down below, give your own opinions, it's whatever. Now, at its core, Marvel Rivals plays very similar to other 6v6 objective-based hero shooters. You got roles like tanks, DPS characters, and supports or healers. And each hero, for the most part, brings some unique abilities that fits Marvel Rivals lore pretty well for the most part. You have characters like Magneto, Loki, and Hulk that feel rather distinct, and the game deserves credit for making them mechanically different instead of just reskins for the most part. And I will say, if you're gonna compare it to its other competitor Overwatch, it's a lot less mechanically demanding because aim isn't the biggest factor in this game. It's more about ability usage, how to use cooldowns, and positioning. Where I would say in comparison, Overwatch is more based on aim. 50% aim, 50% brain in my opinion. With that being said, combat is relatively fast, with heavy emphasis on team strategy and ultimate management. You're not getting a ton of neutral picks at the higher elo and pro play. It's more based on ult management for the most part. With that being said, I think one of the biggest crucial aspects that this game is struggling with is the balancing department. It's very hard to have a casual shooter or a casual hero shooter like Marvel Rivals and balance it accordingly. At some point, you have to make the decision: do you want this game to be more casual or do you want it to be more competitive? It's very hard for games to cater to both sides, and eventually they have to pick a side, otherwise the game will ultimately fail. You see this time and time again with a lot of other games. Continuing that, I think balancing is one of the weakest points in this game, or not the best point. You have characters that have been in the game since Season 0 that haven't really received any changes and have thus been at the top since the dawn of the game. Take, for example, Luna Snow, Magneto. Those characters have remained untouched and are extremely strong, so it seems a little tiring at some points because you're always going to be seeing those characters. Now, another way they talked about how they balance this game is based on the pick rates and the win rates of certain characters. For example, if characters are on a low pick rate, they'll end up probably buffing them. However, if they're on a high pick rate, they end up nerfing them. At least that's what I've seen and from what I've researched on my own. Now, for example, there's characters like the Human Torch, Phoenix, Emma Frost. These characters, since their release, have been extremely strong, except for the Human Torch wasn't really that strong when he was released, but he did get buffed to make him probably the strongest DPS in the game. And those characters have still been dominant since they've gotten their buffs or been released into the game. Take, for example, Phoenix. For example, Phoenix, she got introduced in Season 3 and is still extremely dominant. She wasn't even tweaked in Season 4, which was rather surprising to myself because I felt that character was seen all the time in high elo, pro play, and rightfully so. The character is insane, especially when you pair it up with combos like Luna Snow's damage boost, the 40% from her ultimate, and if you're comboing it with a Magneto ultimate, you'll pretty much always one-shot the backline. Now, I say this time and time again, but I wish instead of companies and game teams or development teams, balancing teams, whatever you want to call them, instead of just looking at the win rates and the pick rates, I really wish they would just listen to pro players, high elo players, maybe some of the mid-rank players as well, to get some ideas of how to balance the game accordingly. Now look, we all know some people might have some insane takes that this character should be strong, this character should be extremely weak, but at the end of the day, this is the route they picked for balancing. I just wish they would really consider the changes that they make and the changes they should make a lot more. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about balancing because I think balancing is really the biggest problem this game has besides matchmaking and the ranked gameplay side. But when it comes to balancing, you see the rise of the meta of triple strategists, especially in Season 4. Because characters like Loki Luna got slightly nerfed. Look, the Luna nerf wasn't anything at all. The Loki nerf definitely was something, but nothing crazy. And because of these changes, we see characters like Ultron, Mantis, Adam Warlock that were already decently strong, and Jeff the Landshark that were already pretty good shine even more now because of these main healers getting slight tweaks. And you might be wondering, well, how does this matter? Well, when you see characters like Adam Warlock, Ultron, or Mantis that do a lot of damage rather than just healing, just being a heal bot, this is where my questions start to arise. Why is it that triple strategist is so strong in this game? Well, in my personal opinion, I think it's because the strategists in question, Adam Warlock, Ultron, do a lot more damage than some of the duelists in this game. Now you might be sitting here thinking, Duck, strategists are there to be strategists. They strategize. They can do damage or they can be healing. Well, yes and no. When it comes to a hero shooter and you have 3 different roles, the strategist, aka the healer role, has to be defined in some other way. They have to be more of healers than DPS characters. Because when a character like Adam Warlock or Ultron can do more damage than most of the duelists in the entire game, with the exception of the super strong heroes like Phoenix, like Psylocke, like Human Torch, this is where my question kind of arises from. Why are we making strategists deal more damage than a lot of the duelists in the game? It just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I previously stated, it's okay that a strategist does damage. They're there to strategize. But the biggest point of their kit should be healing, in my personal opinion, because it is a hero shooter at the end of the day, and you have defined roles. Whether you want to agree with it or not, the Vanguards are the tanks, the duelists are the DPS characters, and the strategists are, well, the healer characters. So when I see 2 strategists already picked in a traditional 2-2-2 comp, and I'm thinking about what duelist or what secondary duelist should I play, well, it kind of automatically goes to a 3rd strategist because I know that those strategists are going to provide healing and utility for the team, but they're also going to be providing more damage than most of the duelists in all of the game. I kind of repeated what I said, but I'm just trying to get my point across even more. So it doesn't really make sense. So I think balancing and how they output heroes in their system needs to be addressed or needs to be changed. Following that, I want to come to another major topic in my opinion, that's hero releases in the season system. So a while back, they changed, I forget what season 2 or something like that, they changed how we get heroes in this game. From every 2 months or like something like that to every single month, which in my opinion is a lot. And with these hero releases, usually you get a new season 4, season 4.5, season 5, and so on. However, I don't think I'm the biggest fan of that. Now, I think bringing new and exciting content every month does seem cool to most people, which is perfectly fine with that. Having new content to come back to every month definitely is a big turn on. I think a lot of people would want to see their character added as quickly as possible. I see the opposite, however. When they release characters, in history, characters like Angela, like Blade, have been relatively weak, rightfully so. When you look at a character like Phoenix that got released was super strong, but it kind of is underwhelming. You're waiting for a character to get released. For instance, Blade, my favorite character in all of Marvel in general. A character like that getting released to the game, I would love the character. However, the character was super, super weak. So that's where questions arise were from that should we be getting characters every single month, or should we wait an extra month, an extra few days, so that we get a properly balanced and tuned character so we don't get let down time and time again? Because if you're waiting a month for a character and each time they release it, it's super weak, what's the point of releasing that new character? But at least that's my opinion. It's kind of a hot take or a hot debate. It's not my preference here to debate anything, it's just my own opinions. It's just, I wish they released characters with a purpose and a meaning. I want them to be played the second they're released so people enjoy the new character, and then if they find the character is super strong, they nerf it or change it accordingly. But again, that's just my own opinion. I'm curious what you think in the comments down below. Now, basically, at the end of the day, what do I want? Well, when they release a character, I think I want a little more into it. I want the character to be strong so a lot of people play it, they come back, play their favorite character in Marvel Rivals or in Marvel in general, enjoy the game again. Because I think in Season 4, despite some of the changes, some of the hero releases, and the balancing, I think the game is in a lot better state than previous seasons where certain characters were obviously too strong. But I do think, besides that, the balancing does need some tweaking. That being said, if you are wanting to play Marvel Rivals again, maybe you want another game to play, then I think now is the time to pick up Marvel Rivals because I think it's a lot better balanced than previous seasons. Take, for example, Season 3, Season 2, Season 1 even. I think the game is in a lot better state than previous seasons, so definitely something to consider if you want to get back into the game for a little bit. Another big question I want to talk about is this, again, the seasons and ranks. So ranks is a big factor. They're adding placement matches, which is a great thing. I'm glad they're finally adding placement matches. It's probably going to be in Season 5, unfortunately, but that's perfectly fine. I think placements was something this game definitely needed. That being said, I think they have to do a hard reset to the ranks if they want to do placement matches. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to have placement matches, at least in my opinion. It's kind of a weird take, but I think if they're adding placements, everybody has to be fully reset. Otherwise, placements really wouldn't matter because they already have the data from before. But at least that's just what I think. So I think a hard reset in ranks in general is the way you want to go if you want to do placement matches. But I guess we'll just see how they do it once we eventually get the placement matches. That being said, I think ranked definitely needs to be fixed. I think that is a big talking point. Ranked, they need to do something to fix ranked. The matches sometimes feel miserable. Whether you believe in EOMM or not, I don't really care. In my opinion, I just play the game to play the game. I don't think about anything else. My stance is I don't really care if there's EOMM or not. My opinion, sure, it can change some factors, but I don't care that much. I think the matchmaking just needs to be better. Sometimes you get some interesting games, sometimes you don't. Whatever Nettie says, whatever other people say, I think regardless of anything, it definitely needs to be fixed. Do I know what the fix is? No, I don't, unfortunately. I think something needs to change though to make games feel better, in my opinion. Again, I think this leans more towards, I think at the beginning of the season, there has to be a hard reset. But then that brings up the question, if they do a hard reset, that means they're hard resetting every month or every 2 months, and that can seem like a lot if you're just playing the game casually. So it's definitely hard to try to lean and make people on both sides happy if you're on the casual side or the competitive side. So I think eventually the game has to choose a route. They either have to go the casual route or they have to go the competitive route so that they can balance it better. Trying to maintain the casual and the competitive side is very hard. And like I've stated previously in the video, I think most games that try to do that end up dying, unfortunately. When I look at a game like X Defiant, when I look at a game like the finals, when the finals at the very beginning was still deciding what side they want to choose, they lost a lot of players, but it's recently come back. Again, it's just my opinion. Now, there's a lot of people that make these types of videos, and I think they miss a big aspect in that there's actually a pro play or a competitive side to this game. There's teams like Virtus Pro, big orgs, Envy, 100 Thieves, Sentinels, and I think a lot of people forget about that. There's not a lot of people that watch the pro scene, which is a little sad. You might be saying, oh, there's a ton of people watch it. I'm one of them. When you look at statistics from Marvel Rivals esports in comparison to other esports, it's definitely on the lower end because it's a newer game. I think if more people watched esports, there would be more people interested in the game, even though I know sometimes esports isn't certain people's thing. I get it. Sometimes it's boring to watch, and you're not a major gamer, you're not really into that, you play the game casually because it's your favorite heroes. But I think watching those pro games, regardless if you're a big fan of the game, is just helpful in general. Whether you're a fan of Marvel Rivals or not, I think it is a very good thing to do. I think they need to publicize a little bit more. They need to do a little bit more branding with the pro side because it actually is rather entertaining to watch, and it does seem like it's biased coming from me, but it definitely is fun to watch because they have these massive lands with massive prize pools. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't have the viewership that I think it should have, in my opinion. So I think that's another aspect. So I think advertising on the side of the pro play is definitely on the weaker side. So I think they definitely need to work on that if they want to draw more attention to the game, at least in my opinion. At least those are the things you should be looking out for. So I think if you're getting into Marvel Rivals and you want to play it a lot, you play a ton of ranked. I think watching pro play, regardless if you like really care that much, it helps you get better at the game. Watching pros how they play is in turn one way to get better. So I think trying to support those people in any way is a great idea. At least that's just my own opinion. That was just a little spiel about pro play, and now I have one final topic, and that's toxicity. Whether you want to believe it or not, this game is extremely toxic. When the game first released, it wasn't nearly as toxic as what it is now. Most people don't talk in game chat because how toxic it is. Most people just don't play the game in general because, again, how toxic it is. It lost a lot of players because how toxic it can get. I've seen it firsthand, and it's pretty bad. I think the only way to counter it is there has to be harsher penalties for toxicity. There has to be something done because it gets very bad at certain points. Whether if I'm too soft or you're too soft nowadays, it definitely is a problem. A lot of people talk about it all the time. You see it everywhere. People make videos, talk about it, blogs, reports. The game is very toxic. You have to admit it at this point. So I think there has to be something done to counter this toxicity so people stop playing the game, unfortunately. I'm not sure what the outcome is. Again, harsher penalties, maybe more monitoring, more mod control, something that they can do to address the toxicity. I think that's one way to try to deal with this issue. But at the end of the day, what is Duck's verdict? My verdict is if Marvel Rivals is worth playing. Well, in my opinion, if you're a Marvel fan, absolutely. The chance to play your favorite hero in a decently polished hero shooter is definitely hard to pass up. If you're a competitive player, the game has some depth and team synergy that makes it relatively rewarding. However, balancing and matchmaking needs refinement, and if you're looking for something different from Overwatch, Marvel Rivals is more of an evolution rather than a revolution. Now, I added this content section because I want to talk about the content aspect of this game. Am I going to stop playing Marvel Rivals and stop uploading content for this game? No, I don't think I will. I love the game. I think uploading content is always fun. It's what got me to 20,000 subscribers, and I love the community for the most part. And I think they've gotten a lot out of my videos, whether it's guides, counter videos, masterclasses, any of that. I think it's been helpful to some. That being said, it does get hard to make content for this game because a lot of it has already been made essentially from my perspective. I have no plans on stopping that type of content. However, Battlefield 6 is a game that I've been waiting for quite a while. I used to play Battlefield all the time. It's what got me into gaming in general. So that is something that's on my mind. That being said, again, Marvel Rivals is going to be coming. Once Battlefield 6 comes out, though, I might upload a Battlefield 6 video to this channel here and there, or I might post a lot more on my second channel in reference to that game specifically. So if you're a fan of Battlefield 6, you want to see some Battlefield content, definitely check out my second channel as well. The links will be in the description. And I definitely still plan on making Marvel Rivals content again. I might add the addition of Battlefield 6 content to this main channel. I'm not making any complete swaps or anything unless something drastic happens, but I highly doubt that. So definitely subscribe to the second channel so I can get that channel monetized. That would be amazing. But regardless, hopefully you found this video helpful, useful, entertaining in any way, shape, or form. Again, it was a discussion video, so definitely type in the comments what you think about all the topics, anything like that. But anyways, I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.